Good evening and welcome to our council meeting. It's so good to see so many of you here. Having said that, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Present.
Councilman Petrucci. Present. Councilman Getzey.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Present.
Councilman Pecora.
Present.
With that said, we would like to move to the swearing in of our police officers. Thank you. If you please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
That I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will enforce the laws of this Commonwealth
and that I will enforce the laws of this Commonwealth
and the ordinance of Penn Hills,
and the ordinance of Penn Hills,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
I do further swear
I do further swear
that I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
that I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
without consideration to a person's race, color, sex,
without consideration of race, color, sex,
religious creed, sexual orientation, age,
creed, sexual orientation, age,
national origin, ancestry,
national origin, ancestry,
handicap, or disability.
handicap, or disability.
I'd like to congratulate you very much, Officer Colin Bugle. Would you mind helping me, Deputy Mayor? Congratulations. Officer Andrew Carter. Officer David Fairley. Officer Evan Magnolia. Officer Justin Taw. Congratulations again, and congratulations to your families. I'm sure the families are very proud of you, and we all are very proud of you as well. And we thank you so much for your service. If anybody would like to come forward and take a picture, you're certainly free to do so right now.
Jim, you want to scooch? You can scooch in.
What's next on the agenda? Expenses.
May we move to the ratification of the expenditures? May I have a motion for the ratification of the expenditures?
I'll make a motion to ratification of expenditures.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Petrucci?
Yes.
Councilman Getzey?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp?
Yes.
Councilman Pecora?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
I will now open public comment on non-agenda items. I will call the names of the individuals that signed up a week in advance to speak on a non-agenda item. But please remember, keep your comments to 3 minutes if you could. First is Howard Davidson. And your address too, please, sir.
Good evening. My name's Howard Davidson, 3857 Green Valley Drive. Want to thank the mayor and council for allowing me an opportunity to speak on behalf of others, including myself, for a sidewalk project. I learned many years ago when I first came to Penn Hills how important sidewalks are to Penn Hills residents. And I know you as council members, you've heard it yourself. But an interesting and very worthy project we feel is to connect the Penn Hebron Garden Club to Senior Citizen Center and otherwise provide a sidewalk on Jefferson Road. That's in the vicinity of our Senior Citizen Center, the Penn Hebron Garden Club, the Penn Hills Lawn and Garden Center. I think you're familiar with that section of Penn Hills. I'm speaking tonight with a few hats. No longer the planning director, of course. I gave that up quite some time ago, but I'm back now as a volunteer. So I'm on the board of the Community Development Corporation. I'm here speaking for them. I'm on the board of the Penn Hills, Penn Hebron Garden Club. I'm also on the board there. I also live in the vicinity and I drive that section of Jefferson Road pretty much whenever I'm headed somewhere in Penn Hills. Did you all receive my letter in your packet? You should have if you didn't. Do they include letters in packets nowadays?
Your letter's not in the packet, but I did forward it on.
Did they receive it? Okay. I could read it again if necessary, but I think I'll just say that we feel the sidewalk is important because it's going to provide an opportunity for expanded opportunities for socializing for the senior citizens at the Senior Citizen Center. Those of you that have been to the barn for an event know how important it is to the barn. And those of you that drive the neighborhood and know the neighborhood, know that pedestrians walk that street to get to the bus service at Frankstown and Rodi. I know as a planner, I'm familiar with the maps and the fact that this is in a low and moderate income area, Penn Hills. I think you could fund this under the community development program. I think you could fund it under COVID. I think you could fund it as a straightforward project in the capital budget. Those of us who I'm speaking for tonight would be happy if you funded it under any of those methods. We're hoping that it'd be a special project, that it not just be a sidewalk, but it'd be a first-class sidewalk. I'd like to bring in the Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission
Please
to
conclude.
give us advice on planting shade trees along the way. I'd like to improve the handicap access ramps that are over there in the vicinity of the Senior Citizen Center to allow them to more easily go to the shopping center. And I'd just like to say that I think that sidewalks in our urban center, I've got called our urban centers, we all know that in Penn Hills, we're missing that town center, Main Street. We don't have a Main Street. But we do have the Penn Hills Shopping Center. We have the Rodi and Frankstown intersection. And I think that sidewalks are important along Duff Road, Rodi Road, Universal Road, and Jefferson Road. And I know that sidewalks are not inexpensive. I don't think this project will be inexpensive, but I think it's a worthy project. I would ask you to authorize the engineer to get started. And I would advise the engineer and the planning director.
Howard, I'm sorry, we have to keep you to 3 minutes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you can-
3 minutes. Oh, well, I'd advise you to take a look at some maps that are on file with the Water Pollution Control Department where we put sewers over there to give you a head start on as-built. There's some as-built drawings available to you. I'm available to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davidson.
All right.
Mayor, is this an opportunity that I could speak to this sidewalk?
Absolutely. Please
Thank
do.
you. I think one thing that we all know the importance of sidewalks. I think Mayor and Council are familiar with that. As a planning director, I'd like to fill in some of the missing links, some of the places where we already have sidewalks, Rodi Road, for example, below the Dunkin' Donuts, portions of Frankstown Road. I could be selfish and say I'd like to see Frankstown Road on my walk home. I know there's sections missing on Frankstown Road where I walk. But also, I think Howard covered a lot of areas, but one thing he didn't mention was that this sidewalk is also in the comprehensive plan, and it's been in the comprehensive plan. I think this sidewalk's bigger than the Penn Hebron Garden Club, though, in that I'd like to see, I think you could also include, Howard, is Faith Community Church. I know it goes quite a bit further, but the sidewalk in the comprehensive plan goes from the senior center all the way to Faith Community Church. That's 1,600 feet. That's a lot of sidewalk. I did commit to the CDC, Howard, and other members during a CDBG hearing that I would in fact speak to Rick Minsterman and fund. I'd like to do a sort of a preliminary, it would have to be predetermined by HUD if we were to use CDBG funds. And I think we can recall I've tried to build sidewalks on Frankstown Road, Rodi Road, different places where for different reasons they were stopped, they were held up. The one on Frankstown Road was Penn Hills has very narrow right-of-way in our state roads and our county roads. This particular project will be on a county road, so we have to get county permission. We also get permission from residents. So I'm trying to make this brief, but I think that my mistake in the Frankstown Road sidewalk was I had the funding, I had the engineering, I had HUD's blessing. I did not have the permission from residents. So I would like to I told Howard and others that I would do my due diligence to make those things happen. And also talk to Rick maybe about a feasibility, kind of what this is going to cost, things like that. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I can add to that we already spoke to the two homeowners between the Garden Club and the Senior Citizen Center, and they're on board. They're ready to sign right away if necessary. They said they have one of them has a very attractive rail fence. They said, take it down. We want the sidewalk. So we know that there are no right-of-way issues in that area. I would just hope that you would push it, that you would move it fast. I know that how long a project like this takes with the engineering and the detail that they need with a survey. I would just ask you to move it along.
Howard, that's a question here. We have stimulus grant money coming in, and I suggest you submit a proposal for that project under the stimulus grant. It would be something we can keep on record and have for reference when the money comes in.
Well, I feel it's eligible under that program as well as the CD program. It's up to council to choose. As a resident, and I think most residents don't care where it comes from. They just want to see the sidewalk.
Thank you for your service to the elderly and the handicapped who come to the barn.
And final word would be to invite every one of you over to the barn in the fall on Wednesday nights. Come and see our coffee house. We have special events coming up. We have a bingo program coming up for the CDC. Look at your flyers, look at your emails for events over at the barn and come and join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, were you on, you're not on the agenda, Mr. Felix.
1 minute.
That's really out of order. I'm so sorry. You know, we can have, maybe that can be for a non-voting meeting. That, I think that we can have a whole discussion on that. That would be great.
I will say there was a gap on the sidewalk, and also there,
The next speaker, Aaron Vecchio, and if you could just state your address too, for the record. And if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Aaron Vecchio, 231 Garlow Drive. I'm here tonight to talk about concerns with code enforcement. Mayor, you know you came to me last year about how our kids dressed at the school district. Well, I'm here to tell you the dress code of Penn Hills needs to change. The houses, the businesses, everybody, they have to be held accountable for what's going, they have that property. They need to maintain it. They need to take care of it. And I've called numerous times for code enforcement to do things. 99 Glenfield, there's 2 abandoned cars sitting there. They've been there for 2 years. 116 Glenfield, Mr. Blackwell, you should know this quite well. There's weeds this high. There's stuff piled on the deck and they put tarp up so you couldn't see the things. Every main entranceway to Penn Hills, you have Rhode Eye Road, 668, owned by Michael Perillo. It's a garbage fest. You have an abandoned dump truck there with garbage piled up over it. You got the property next to it. What's the guy's name that died? That has the...
Andrea?
Yeah. His property's got weeds. These are the main entranceways to Penn Hills, the old hippos. It looks like a garbage, like Ace's junkyard. You got every main entranceway and nothing's being done about it. I know half the people sitting here call, and I understand you don't have enough people, but you can also look for this code and for COVID money too, to cover this. You can hire these people for 3 years, do massive cleanups, and just get it done, because people want to live in a clean community. You know, we have our school district coming back now. We have an $8 million surplus. So, I mean, we all have to work together to make this town better. And if we don't, there's not going to be a town anymore. I've been here 62 years. I'm born and raised here. This is not the town I grew up in. Somebody has to be held accountable to take care of their properties. That bar on Rhode Eye, there's garbage overflowing out of the cans. And I called numerous people, but nothing gets done. Please tell me why. And you'll tell me that you don't have enough code enforcement. Hire them. You have the money sitting here right now. You don't even know what you can use all this money for. Hire these people, at least for 3 years. Go do a massive cleanup at these auto places. I mean, go at any main road in Penn Hills where they have automotive places. There's cars, there's weeds growing up all around everything. I mean, this is not the town I grew up in. In the area that I live in Crescent Hills, we maintain our properties. So, I mean, everybody should be maintaining their properties because you have the money to do it. Use it, please.
Conclude.
Thank you, Mrs. Vecchia.
Thank you, Aaron.
I just want to make one statement. I did not, Mr. Catlin, I didn't mean to offend you, but, you know, if we don't follow the protocol, no matter how well-intentioned then we make those exceptions later. We have to stick with the protocol. We are going to move from item number 5E, I'm sorry, 5F, the appointment that was to be moved further up on the agenda. Having said that, may I get a motion for the appointments to the Shade Tree Commission?
I'll make a motion for the appointments to the Shade Tree Commission.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you.
Councilman Getzey on 5F.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes, I'd like to know, are the people here tonight? in the
Some of them
audience?
are. Some of them are.
Can we just see who they are?
Yeah, we were going to call them up after we presume the motion will pass. We were going to call them up after it passes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Yes. Mayor Calabrese.
A resounding yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
5F approved.
So the deputy mayor beat me to it. I was going to say, if Sandy Feather could please stand, and Tori DeJohn, Betty Arndt, Jill Daly, and Lori Furwaller. And Kathy Rayborn, I think you should be recognized. Thank you so very, very much.
You all do a wonderful job embellishing our municipality. Thank you for all of your hard work. And I know you're all volunteers, and we just can't thank you enough. If we had 10,000 tongues, we thank you with everyone, and it still wouldn't be enough. So thank you.
If any other member of council, Councilman Getzey, do you have a comment?
Yes, I'd like to thank them all. I worked with them all. It's been a pleasure.
Councilman Petrucci?
Yes, thank you all. You do a wonderful job and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Councilman Pecora?
Yes, thank you very much for all your hard work you do for the community. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you too, and I would like to say that you have changed my life because I can't drive past a tree now, and if it looks like a telephone pole, I'm going to go and tell the owner, you planted that incorrectly. But thank you so much for helping us beautify Penn Hills, and you are wonderful, wonderful volunteers. Thank you. Moving now to resolutions and approvals. May I get a motion for Resolution 5A?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 5A, Resolution 2021-28, approving the acquisition and subsequent disposition of vacant property located on Frankstown Road, known as parcel 368-M-35, in accordance with the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Item 5A approved.
May I get a motion for item 5B?
I'll make a motion for item 5B, Resolution 2021-29, awarding the Penn Hills Phase 13, 2021 Repair Contract A to the State Pipe Service Incorporated in the amount of $382,050, and Contract B to a Standard Pipe Service LLC in the amount of $429,750.
May I get a second, please?
Second.
Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
5D approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 5C?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 5C, Resolution 2021-30, approving the first option year with Republic Service for 2022 with all terms, prices, and conditions remaining the same for residential refuse and recycling collection.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Any comment from council? I have a question. I don't know, Scott, would you be willing to address the issue with Republic in terms of the options that we had available?
Yeah, my pleasure. We entered into a 3-year agreement with Republic Services 3 years ago. And when that happened, as you may remember, there was a pretty significant price increase, mostly related to recycling at that time. And we were on a footing to go out to bid this year and seek other haulers, although there's not many to select from. The last time we went through it, there was only 2. And we looked at what happened to some of our neighbors. Some of the neighboring communities recently went through that. Most of them see a price increase. Most of the time that you go out and you find bids for refuse services, usually the price always goes up. Especially, I think that would have been true with the recycling challenges as they exist. So the contract that we have with Republic Services gives the municipality and the hauler, if they're both mutually agreeable, to essentially extend the contract with no changes to the terms and the conditions and the prices. So before we decided what we were going to do, I approached Republic Services and I asked them if they would be willing to extend the pricing and the terms and the conditions of the existing contract for 22, and they were. So this is a pretty big budget item for Penn Hills. We were expecting to probably have to budget for a significant increase in that service next year. So at least for 22, we'll be paying the same amount that we've paid in 2021. That isn't to say that there's no issues with Republic. I think we all know that there are, and there's some reasons why some of those challenges are harder to resolve than others. But at least for our budget next year, we don't see an increase in refuse, and that's why I think it's beneficial to the municipality to extend the option year next year, because I think we would probably end up in the same place with Republic probably again, but we would probably have a price increase next year if we weren't. So that's why I recommended the option year.
And am I correct in my understanding that frankly, Penn Hills is so big, nobody else wants to take the contract?
Yeah, that is a big reason, Mayor. First of all, there's only so many trash haulers. So that's one thing. I mean, you have Waste Management, you have Republic, you have County Hauling, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But because of our size, any hauler that we would get is going to have the staff, the trucks, and the equipment to service a community this large. So, and again, I know the last time we went out and sought pricing, we only got 2 proposals. One, the lowest being Republic, and then the next highest, which was significantly higher, was Waste Management. And I could just tell you that, not to belabor anyone, but Waste Management, they're not without fault either. I don't know whether you've lived in a community you might have had Waste Management. I don't know that some of the complaints that you may have with Republic, I don't know that those are going to disappear just because you have Waste Management. As a budget item, we were expecting to have to budget for a pretty big increase next year in this service. So the fact that we basically get a 4th year of the contract without a price increase, I think is a good thing. I think when Penn Hills went into the contract 3 years ago, if we could have selected a 4th year and no price increase, then we probably would have. So it's not an increase, and that's a good thing for the budget.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
5C approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 5D?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 5D, Resolution 2021-31, approving the access and right-of-way agreement with VN3 Properties LLC.
Second.
Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? Roll call.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
I'm
Can I
sorry.
interrupt you and can I speak to this?
Yes, please do.
I just want to point out, I think it seems very simple that you're looking at an agreement, a right-of-way agreement, but this is the cooperation between local business owners, and they're in the audience today. David Recupero and James Dowlich are in the audience. And this is a cooperation between those business owners and municipal officials, including the solicitor, to put forth this resolution and this agreement. And Mr. Recupero, to try to make it short, he's purchased a piece of property from Mr. Dulwich to make a landscape contractor's yard in the vicinity of Milltown Park. And the access to that property is through Penn Hills Park. In exchange for this right-of-way, Mr. Recupero has put together a beautiful site plan, went before the Planning Commission. It'll be a whole new entrance. If you're familiar with the entrance to Milltown Park, it's a disaster, right? So you come in, right now it's just gravel and mayhem. He's going to landscape it, seed it, put in a fence, put in a road. He'll have access to that road. He'll maintain that road. In addition, you all remember that I know that Mayor and Council is very, really looking to a recreation you're always looking for opportunities for recreation for the municipality. You may recall that the Planning Department, Penn Hills, along with Verona, Oakmont, Penn Hills, and Plum, we received a grant for a feasibility study a few years ago for a bicycle trail from Verona to Boyce Park. And that trail would go past Creekside Park in Oakmont, Penn Hills Park, Milltown Park, Bessemer Field, and then Plum Creek Park in Plum on its way to Boyce Park. And the significance of this agreement is that Mr. Recupero, as part of this exchange of this right-of-way, is going to build 800 feet of trail. And it may not sound like a lot. It's easily, even I can bike 800 feet of trail. But this is the first 800 feet of a 17-mile trail from Verona to Boyce Park. So I think that there is a section in Creekside Park in Oakmont that was already a trail. But I think that, this is significant in that this agreement that you're passing tonight is the first section of a trail for Penn Hills. And I think that's
Feel free to applause.
Yeah. No. And then I'd hope to have it here tonight, but I believe at your next meeting, Mr. Dulwich is also going to convey another 3,000 feet of property that he owns to Penn Hills and Mr. Alexander Craig is working on that. We're working on that agreement so that I'd hope to have it tonight to have a huge celebration, but Penn Hills is going to have about a mile of trail, at least property acquisition, 800 feet constructed and a mile of trail acquisition. That is really significant. And that is really a testament to the property owners of Penn Hills and their desire to improve the community and, give this land. They're giving this land to Penn Hills. So, I want to point that out, and I'm looking forward to. It'll go from Boda Road to our equalization tank at Jody Lane.
I don't mean to embarrass you, but it would be great if you would stand up. Thank you so much.
Chris, I have a question. So would that be would it actually coincide with the trails that the county, what the county's working on?
Yes, the Allegheny County approached, I've been working on trails Howard was here, 27 years, I think 25 years ago. 2003, nearly 20 years ago, we did a feasibility study for a trail on Allegheny River Boulevard. And there's been some difficulties there. We have an active railroad. Can't blame the guy from wanting to run trains on an active railroad. And then, and that sort of went by the wayside, and we were kind of sitting there waiting. And then Allegheny County, but I've been working with the same handful of residents from the different communities, from the Verona, Oakmont, Penn Hills, and Plum, to work on trails. We sort of never stopped. We kind of kept going. So then the county, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, approached us and said, hey, we want to do this. We want to connect every county park by trails in Allegheny County. And they knew that we had we already had a committee together. We'd been working on it, been waiting for something. So I think it's a feather in the VOP. We're calling the VOP Trail Committee that this is occurring. But it wouldn't have happened without these property owners, without the acquisition of this
So
property.
they're actually giving Penn Hills the jump start.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's correct.
that's absolutely commendable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for that explanation.
Roll call.
Councilman Petrucci?
Yes.
Councilman Getzey?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp?
Yes.
Councilman Pecora?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
5D approved.
May I get a motion for Resolution 5E?
I'll make a motion for resolution 5E. I thought we were doing
Yeah, excuse me, Mayor, that, if this is the approval of the change order, that's
Oh, I'm
something
sorry.
we won't have to consider that. I can explain.
Okay, very good. That's fine. 5E is removed from the agenda.
Yeah, we don't have to consider that.
Okay, if you want to explain why, that'd be great.
Yeah, we have some paving projects that are about to start as part of our multimodal Phase 1, Part 2. And whenever we looked at the maps, whenever the engineer was planning that, we thought there was going to have to be certain sewer work that happened before the paving occurred. And it ended up that we didn't have to do it. We thought that we were going to have to, based on how close some of the sewers were to the areas being paved. But upon closer inspection, we didn't actually have to do any of those sewer repairs prior to the paving. So that $28,000 we thought we were going to have to spend, we don't. Is that a good summary of it? That's right. Rick?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to item number 6, I would like to verify with the solicitor. I think I know the answer, but I would like to add an item to the agenda. So I'll tell you what I'd like to add, and then you can tell me the process. I think we need to do a motion for that, if I'm not mistaken. We had an unfortunate incident occur here in Penn Hills. I don't know how many of you understand the structure, but what happens is mayor and council, mayor appoints and council, with the approval of council, certain positions. Among them is the chief of police. Mayor and council do not hire and we do not fire police officers. In fact, we are specifically prohibited from getting involved in that process. We're specifically prohibited. There was an officer that was hired and then terminated, and again, without the input from mayor or council. However, it's resulted in some unfortunate circumstances and some unfortunate consequences. It might very well lead to litigation and so forth for Penn Hills. So I don't want to get into details, but I do think that there has got to be accountability. There absolutely has got to be accountability. And the way the process works is the chief of police recommends the officers. Mayor and council, we do not hire, we do not fire, we do not approve, we don't do any of that. We are responsible to the taxpayers of the municipality of Penn Hills. Having said that, I would like to make a motion to put on the agenda that we request the resignation of the chief. And if he will not voluntarily resign, then I suggest that we move for his termination. So I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include my resolution. Is that the proper procedure, solicitor?
Yes, anytime,
Your microphone.
anytime that you're going to add something to the agenda, and just so everybody's aware, Governor Wolf just signed something into law on June 30th that in the future, not now, but in the future, you're not going to be able to amend the agenda unless it's an absolute emergency. But right now, as the law stands, you're allowed to amend the agenda, and what you did was the right thing. You moved to amend the agenda to place your motion on the agenda. And as I understand, your motion at this point is to request that the chief submit his resignation.
That's correct.
Okay. So that motion is on the floor, and if it passes, it will be added to the agenda, and then you can call for a motion to pass that motion.
May I get a second?
Mayor, I have a question first for the solicitor. So solicitor, if we don't get a motion at all, then does it just go away?
You mean if you don't get a second at
If we
all?
don't get a second at all?
It dies for lack of a second.
Thank you.
And then I would have to put it on. Okay, I'll ask for may I get a second to my motion to amend the agenda to include the item I just spoke of?
I'll second it.
Do I need to ask for public comment at this point, or do I just ask my colleagues
You're
if
just
they?
getting it on the agenda right now. You can ask for public comment when it comes up on the floor.
Okay, roll call.
On the addition of the item to adding the item to the agenda, Deputy Mayor Sapp?
I have to get clarification first, excuse me.
Right now, it's just going on the agenda. So the motion is to put it on the agenda. It either goes on the agenda or it doesn't go on the agenda. And then if it gets on the agenda, then it gets moved to the public for consideration. And
No.
Councilman Pecora?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci?
No.
Councilman Getzey?
No.
Okay, the motion was 3-2 in the negative.
Items for consideration.
Madam Mayor, I have a few items for consideration here that I'd like to discuss. And maybe Chris can enlighten me on this if I'm wrong. I've had several complaints with people parking up on their front lawns. Now, they do have driveways, and the neighbors have complained about the cars parking right up to the front door, just about. And we've had this happening on several streets in Penn Hills because I've got several complaints about it. I'm proposing that we put some type of an ordinance together that would, in regards to this parking on the front yards. Is there something that you know about on the books right now?
Currently, the ordinance states that only 50%, but I'm sorry, that 50% of the, I'm pulling this from memory, so.
Go ahead.
But it states that 50% of the front yard must be maintained as lawn, which you would presume would be 50% asphalt, 50% grass. It does not say you cannot park a car on there.
Okay.
So, and I'm not sure, I think the solicitor might have to, I'm not sure you can tell somebody they cannot park on their lawn. I don't know, but when that came up, Jesus, I want to say 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that's how the ordinance was amended, was just that you must maintain 50% of your yard as lawn. But at the time, it was determined, I don't believe you can tell somebody they cannot park anywhere on their property.
Okay. All right, we'll have to look into that then. I'll have Manager Scott Andrzejczyk look into it. Something else that I brought up years ago was a sign ordinance for political signs. Now, at that point, I had said we would look into Wilkins. Wilkins has a pretty decent sign ordinance where you pay a amount of money for the sign, and I believe it was $100, and if you picked up the signs, you got $75 of it back, and they kept $25. I see the litter people picking them up. I see Frank Allison picking them up. I've removed quite a few of them. So maybe if we would put some type of a sign ordinance together, maybe we wouldn't have so many signs that are left behind. So that's something else I'd like to have considered one more time for that. It was brought up to me by the Rotary to bring this up. Rotary in Verona and Oak Point put up 155 signs. And the Rotary would like to join partnership with Penn Hills and putting up some signs, or putting up some flags in Penn Hills around different areas to be chosen at a later point. I think it would be a nice thing to do, to join hands with them and get these flags erected around Memorial Day or 4th of July, So I will bring the two of them together and see if we can work something out. I believe the Rotary, Mark Lands is here from the Rotary. I believe the Rotary will pay for the flags if we can get somebody to erect the flags around different areas of town. And right now, that's all I have.
Now, how large are these things?
I think at the Rotary meeting, they decided to pick the big ones, Mark.
I'm not sure what the cost, we haven't explored that, but we would agree that we would fund. But we need somebody that, a bucket truck or somebody to get them out there. And we're thinking it would be something you mount on the pole.
Okay, these are I'm talking about the signs that you're going to put around different areas like the monument and different areas around town. Up and down Frankston. Okay.
May I ask, so I know that in other communities, sometimes families will sponsor, an individual family might sponsor a flag or the individual person. How would that be maintained going forward?
Just one quick thing. We did have those erected at one time. In 2017, 2018, we had to take them down because they were destroyed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They look beautiful, but they get
destroyed.
So that's the question. That's why I asked that.
I think Oakmont, they just put them up for their graduating students, and I think the families paid for those.
Right.
I think what we're talking about two different things. John's talking about putting flags around just, ground flags.
Ground flags.
The pole signs would be something that would have to be maintained. And we would probably raise money to put the banners up or put the brackets up, and then have to be changing them around as we went along. But again, it does take maintenance. Chris,
Yeah, I was just leaning forward if you want me to speak on that. I was involved in the banners that were put up on the telephone poles some years ago. That was an advertising company. They went after they found the families of the businesses and things like that would pay for it. They installed them, but they wouldn't maintain them, and they wouldn't come back when they started getting tattered. And part of the deal was like, they expected businesses to re-up, and if they didn't re-up, then they let it go. So that seemed to be a problem with how do you get somebody to come back? I imagine there's still brackets up there, honestly, but I don't know how you get somebody to come back and maintain something when you're not, like, how do you it was in the contract, I believe, that they maintain them, but without another year of revenue, they backed away.
How many flags are we talking about?
well, most of the municipalities do it on their main street, which we don't have, obviously. And if you look in the small river towns, Sharpsburg, Ashmore, they all have their war veterans flags up there. We could do it with war veterans, we could do it with anything, but it has to be investigated. It's in the preliminary talks with us, but as far as putting flags around, yeah, we want to get flags out on all the holidays, Memorial Day, the 4th, Labor Day.
I did notice in other communities that there were police cars, and then they'd have a pickup truck with a trailer getting American flags going down the road, and they protected the volunteers who were putting out. Those are American flags that you're talking about.
Yes, American flag.
And then if the Rotary does decide to go with the flags again on the poles, I think there's some advice that we would give, like businesses bought a sign for their business and put it in front of someone else's business. So people were upset that I might have a restaurant and another restaurant's sign is in front of my restaurant. So there were little things like that we learned later on. There's a lot to learn in that whole sign issue thing. And then you can imagine in Westview, certain communities that have poles that are equally numbered, equally spaced, it looks fantastic. I'm not so sure that it had the same result in Penn Hills, just because we don't have that.
Except we do have main intersections, and we could do that.
Thank you. Any other items for consideration or reports, Councilman Petrucci?
I have some reports that I'd like to go over real quick. First one, when I got some good news for everybody, I got a call from Mr. Peter Rubash the other day. And what happened was that if you take a look at the pictures that are on your monitors right now, 2018, I believe, we all took a ride, the past administration took a ride with the county and looked at some properties throughout Penn Hills. And one of the properties for redevelopment, they were for redevelopment. We looked at the Atlas Cement plant, we looked at the US Steel plant, and we looked at a property down on Rhode Road, the old BP station. Now, the old BP station, Mr. Rubash called me the other day. Well, actually, it was before the last meeting, as I'm 1 month behind on my notes here. And he told me that we have the property down on Rhode. It was our request of all of us that were sitting there at that time that we get the property free and clear. They removed the gas station building, they removed the pumps, and they give us the property. And that is all accomplished right now. They removed the pumps, they removed the station. I think my vision and everybody else's vision that was up there at that time was that, and Kathy, you can interject anything you want to do, so that we put a sign there that says, "Welcome to Penn Hills." That would be the first thing that you see coming into Penn Hills. And it just so happens, and with a little luck, the Rotary is buying a new sign, a bright, brand new sign. And I see Mr. Sapp in the audience here, maybe with some the trades, they could build maybe something in stone to go around it. And maybe with the electricians, they could probably wire it up so that we could hook it up. It's an idea. And then we could get some of the landscapers, Mr. Recupero just left, and maybe we could get them to donate some time there, just like we did for the monument. I think it would be the first thing that you see when you're coming in would be a great vision for everybody, that we see a nice, beautiful sign out there that says, "Welcome to Penn Hills." And then they'll do some, the Rotary does advertising on it for the municipality and some other businesses and stuff like that. But that's my vision for it. So hopefully someday that can come to light. We all went to the ALOM, Allegheny League of Municipality, up at Seven Springs. That was in June 7th, I believe, right? And up there, Kathy and I came across a company called Building Inspection Underwriters. Now, this has something to do with what Aaron just said. They came in the other day, and I was privileged to sit with them and talk to them about what they do. And well, everybody knows that we're shorthanded in code. Everybody does. So the main objective here was to get some help from these people, not anything against code or doing it, just to get some help in here with this company, because what they do is they do occupancy permits and they do code violations. So we sat down, the manager and I and his representative, we sat down with them and we heard their spiel. Whether it's I don't know whether it was a good fit for us or not, but we heard them, and they would go out and do code inspections or the occupancy permits, which would free up our men to do other complaints in the municipality. So it would actually aid. It's not privatizing or anything of that nature. It is actually aiding our workers. It's like hiring a part-time worker, because what they charge is, if we charge $50 for an occupancy permit, they give us $20 out of that 50 and they make the rest. It's by piecework is what it is. So that would be up to the manager and code to make the final decision on that. It didn't sound like too bad of an idea, but again, that's not my decision.
Councilman Petrucci, can I interject something?
Sure, go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I want to say that, going up to ALOM, the Allegheny League of Municipalities, it's always a good time there, because you get to meet all of the other vendors. You get to see, how competitive they are, or they're vendors that are new to us, or they're vendors where we can save money. And so we all know that code is short-staffed right now. They're doing the best that they can with what they have. So this is more like a temporary agency type thing.
Right.
not employees. And we're certainly not, we don't want to give, the misconception that we are trying to privatize anything. We're not.
No.
We are simply just trying to get some help. So helping them helps all of us. We don't want to live in a blighted community. We want to live in a very embellished community where we are welcoming and businesses are looking to come here and we are enticing them to come because we're beautiful. So that's what that is. So I don't want anybody to be misinformed by any one giving you wrong information. It has nothing to do with privatizing anything. It's simply like a temporary agency.
Right.
So we're looking for help. So helping code helps all of us.
Right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Kathy. One other thing a couple other things I want to mention, the Rosedale Civic Association had their carnival back in June, and they were quite successful because of their, the carnival. We had about 2,000 people that showed up at the carnival over 4 days. There was enough money between donations and we had the raffles and stuff like that, Chinese auction. It was really nice. Out of all that went on, we collected enough money to rebuild the wall out front of the park, and also the playground equipment will be renovated. So that was something good that came out, and it was a wonderful event, and hopefully it'll be done every year. The job fair is coming up on July 31st. It'll be from 12 to 4, and we have many organizations that are coming. Let me get the list. We have the Penn Hills Police Department coming, the fire, EMS, trades will be there. The Army will be there, the Navy will be there, Giant Eagle will be there, McDonald's will be there, Turner's will be there, IUP, CCAC, Butler County, Penn State, IUP, S&T, Key, Builders and Trades again, Christ Transportation, Code, DPW. Who did I miss, Kath? Anybody?
I don't have my list, but we have probably almost looking at 30 businesses coming out to, seek employment. And that came about, do you mind if I just?
Go ahead,
piggyback
Kath, go
off of
ahead.
your stuff?
Go ahead. You can jump in anytime you want.
Yeah. So actually, this is in my report. So you know what? I'm just going to wait until I have my turn. But we have about 30 businesses that are coming. So it's very important that we spread the word. One, it is Saturday, July 31st from 12 to noon. We're going to have a big, beautiful setup for them.
I'm sorry, this is your report, Deputy Mayor? You're giving your report now?
No, I'm not. So we're going to have a big,
Do you want to
beautiful,
wait till John finishes his report and then you can do yours?
yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off of what he said real quick
Okay.
though. So it's going to be a wonderful day. So we don't want to have all of these businesses here and no one be home. So we don't want all of this company and no one home. So please come up yourselves to support. And also, if you know of anyone who is looking for a job, looking for not a minimum wage, but a living wage, we have these businesses that are coming out, especially the local unions and the different trades. So even for the unemployment now, if you want to file for unemployment, you have to say that you went to a job fair, or prove it. So spread that word for us. It's a municipal job fair. It's our job fair.
How many municipal jobs are open right now?
Oh, there's a whole code enforcement is one big one. We talked about that tonight. So we're already short in code. We're short in a lot of departments. We're short with our EMTs, so our EMTs will be out there. Code will be represented out there. So I don't have those stats in front of me, but we're pretty short.
So we don't have a specific number of true openings though, correct?
No, but there's enough. There's enough. It's probably embarrassing to say. So we hope that, you will spread the word and come on out and let's get these vacancies filled. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. I want to congratulate Jan Patis for retiring from the DPW. I believe he put 30 years in, so I want to congratulate him. I want to congratulate Jim Getzey. He is now what is your official title now for the fire department?
I don't know, chief or something. When we were at the conference, Graduate School of Public and International Affairs had a booth, and I was talking with them, and that they teach and investigate municipal issues. And at the end of our conversation, I was invited to join the fire advisory committee to talk about municipality fire departments permanent departments and volunteer departments. So I'll be attending my first meeting, I think, next week, and I'll be following up with them and bring any good advice I have back to this council and to the public.
Oh, thank you, thank you. One thing I just want to say about the job fair, if anybody was watching the news last week, I believe the president had he had a meeting with all the law enforcement agencies throughout the country. And when he sat down at that meeting, there's two things that he recommended to the panel that was there to try to curtail violence within the communities. And one was, he said this, job fairs, and the other one was crime prevention. And the last thing he said in that statement was, I'd rather put a paycheck in the hands of a young man or woman than a gun. And that's why we're doing this. Not everybody's cut out for college. And I believe the trades will be there, and there's nothing better than to get a young man involved in something he can work with his hands, whether it be building a house in the carpenters union or electrical or the welders. I mean, welders are out there too. The 66 is out there. So I believe it's a good thing for our community also. And the school is involved too. I believe they're sending out an email. So I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
I have something.
Councilman Getzey.
As you may, or some people don't know, we're getting $18 million of stimulus money from the federal government. We know that. We don't think what they call the final interim rule has been published to make everything definitive, but it's pretty much open to different things that can be done in the community. And it's done to help people who have been affected by the COVID virus to get back into some kind of reasonable employment or financial or housing costs to restore this, what they've lost, but it also goes into other areas. Now, my concern, or I'd like to raise this, is so far as the council and the manager, we have not met to talk about our ideas about this plan. I know the manager is working on the plan. What I don't want to happen is for the manager to show us a plan that we have not talked about, not to make any decisions, but just to talk generally about what's eligible, what we can anticipate, what we should anticipate, and we have not done that. I think it's important that we do. I don't want to be presented with a plan at a meeting and told I have to vote to approve it or not approve it if I haven't had any idea what was going to come in before that. So we have not had a meeting. I'm asking for a meeting. And I think it's necessary that we do this because if this comes up at a meeting and we have to discuss it, bring a lunch because it's going to be a long time. I have something else too. Will anybody reply to that, or are we just going to let it?
I'd like to reply to that.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor. Go ahead. Actually, we did. We had a public hearing almost immediately after we received the notice that we were getting the funds. We had a public hearing on the funds. I know that there are ongoing meetings within the staff. So I think maybe you're just not recalling that.
I'm not recalling it. No, I don't recall it. I don't remember council getting together and talking about this. I don't remember council sitting down with the mayor and talking about this. And I would like to know what it.
Well, maybe the manager can correct me. Am I misremembering? But as far as I remember, we had a public hearing, did we not?
Yeah, we did have a meeting, I want to say possibly in March. It was a special purpose meeting to discuss the stimulus where we did invite in the public to hear their ideas. And one thing I just would say to Councilman Getzey is that any plan that we do put out in terms of how it's going to relate to the 22 budget, you would have ample time to review that, as will the public, because under our charter, our proposed budget goes in sometime in October. So you basically have 3 months to review that. So the the way we're envisioning it is probably in September, we're going to be coming through with a budget amendment for this year as to how we propose to program stimulus into the 21 budget. But then a big part of our 22 budget process is going to be to show the public and council how the stimulus hits our 22 budget. So there's going to be ample time for that, Councilman Getzey.
Well, you're going to present the plan. We have one person, the manager, working on the plan. We have 5 elected officials who, to my knowledge, have not been advised of any types of activities that we're considering or that the public wants. May I finish?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I just want to
And
correct you.
I would like to be involved at the front end to talk about what is possible to go into the plan and not be given the plan to review. And I think that will take away the amount of time we'll spend going over the plan and asking what this means, who put this in, what can it do, is this good, is this bad? And I think the public should be aware of what's going on. And sitting here, I need more information. I don't want to review a plan. I'd like to be in on a pre-planning meeting where we at least address what the stimulus money can do. And to follow up on that, I think we need a protocol for people who are interested in obtaining the funds to submit either a letter of intent or an application or a description of a project. Everything that we want might not be eligible, and there may be some eligible things that we can't fund. $18 million is a lot of money, but we need a lot of things to do with that $18 million. So I would rather be up there to discuss the protocol for people applying for the grant who know about the grant. And if anybody would, I think maybe at some point we have a special meeting to talk about the grant specifically. So anybody wants to comment on that now, but.
Yes, Councilman, I'd like to make a comment. So when we were at ALOM, we, heard, we sat in a workshop that talked about the stimulus and the different things that you are allowed to spend it on, the things that you're not allowed to spend it on. So we went through a whole series of that. And then we kind of talked with, we saw our engineer and we kind of stopped him and, just asked him a couple questions like, are there ways that we could creatively write, some things that would make it inclusive to being able to spend the stimulus money, because right now it's just on stormwater and sewer. So I asked if our engineer would be willing to meet with a couple of the council people, and because of the Sunshine Act, we only can have 2. So today, myself and Councilman Petrucci, along with our engineers and our business manager and several of the department heads, we met today just to look at some of the items that we could consider, some of the things that are a priority, some of the things that, would be in the future, and some of the things that would be down the line. So I think I have something on my report later. I'm just adding to yours. So Councilman Petrucci and myself, we did meet today with our engineers and with several department heads. And so we do have some information that we are looking forward to sharing with the rest of council. But that was just done today, Councilman Getzey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another item here. It's about the budget. I would like to see council sit down with the manager and discuss the budget. Last time the budget was approved, it was approved by 4 people. I did not approve it because I have things in the budget that I think need to be explained or expanded upon. People I've talked to looked at the budget. I've asked them what they thought of it. They said, well, it lacks some things. And in reviewing budgets from other communities, they are much more descriptive. They are explanatory, and I have to say, exceed our budget by quite a bit in terms of providing information to the public. So I'm hoping that we can have some meetings outside of our routine, one meeting for council, one meeting for the public, and one meeting to approve it, which is held at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, usually when people can't attend. And I would like to look into this budget and have it expanded, revised, and be more informative to the people. And I'd like to do this with council, not to make any decisions again, but just to explore the questions and problems I have with the budget. And I think many other people who've looked at it also have. And thank you, that's my.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, do you have any items for consideration and/or reports?
Yes, Mayor. So my items are for consideration are, I would like to see a municipal welcoming packet put together and made available to all new residents and business owners. Also, at the beginning of the year, if we could drop those packets off at the high school, middle school, and elementary schools so that the principals and teachers can make sure that every child takes one home. This would be a great way to introduce Penn Hills and what we offer as a municipality, a guide to who is who in local government, boards, police, fire departments, businesses, etc., and where they can be found. So something like a directory, because what I'm learning over the last several years is, other than the people who normally come to our council meetings, nobody really knows who's who in local government. Nobody really, if you're new to Penn Hills, you don't really know where to find the eateries. You don't really know where to find a directory. If you have a problem with the garbage, they don't have numbers. So I'd like to see a directory or a municipal packet put together. Number two, so many of our Penn Hills residents have input on what they like to see the stimulus money spent on. I know I do as a resident, and I'm sure that you do too. Well, it's hard to hear from everyone. We have 42,000 members here in Penn Hills, or residents here in Penn Hills. So it's hard for us to hear from every one of you. There's just 5 of us, and subtract that from the 42,000. So I'm suggesting, I'm all about inclusion. I'm all about interactive activities. So I'm suggesting that we have like something like a municipal wishing well built and placed in the front of the municipal building where Penn Hills residents can come and put their stimulus wishes in the wishing well. This way, we can empty the wishing well weekly, read over their ideas, because you know what? It takes the village. It takes all of us. It's all of our money, and all of us have good input, right? So this way, we can read over their ideas and maybe find something that we've overlooked. It will be fun. It'll be interactive, and everyone will have the same opportunity to voice their stimulus wish. And I have just
May I add?
Yes, you may.
I think when we get this, if you submit proposals, it may be worthwhile, maybe a couple of organizations or people work together to make sure that we don't have that many as was mentioned. But everything's not going to be able to be funded. Some of it will be, small stuff, some of big stuff. Howard, I think your proposal would fit into that. But we're going to have to do a review process to make sure it conforms with the regulations. And I think if you can submit a proposal as detailed as you can, that would be fine. If you can submit a proposal saying we propose to submit a proposal, that would be fine also.
Yes, that's a good idea.
I think we want to know what we're going to face in terms of the demand on this grant.
That's a good idea, Councilman, and thank you so much for adding that suggestion. It's just that, other than our organizations that are here who are able to put together proposals, there are residents who just have some ideas too, and there's just residents who want to have an input in this money. So this is just a way, of course, every idea is not going to be able to be funded. We know that, but it's still a way that we can hear our residents. Again, it's just 5 of us. We're 2 meetings a month. There's no way. Look at this audience. This was probably one of the larger audiences we've had in a long time. So it's just an idea, an item for consideration, but I thank you for that, Councilman. I also would like to consider that mayor and council in the coming year that we have 3 scheduled town hall meetings, or we'll call it what we will, but we're going to just call it, for lack of better words tonight, town hall meetings, starting in the new year in 2022. These meetings will be non-agenda items, and if there are no major or hot town hall topics to be discussed, then I'm suggesting that we will call in some of our vendors to do presentations, because we know, what's proposed, and what's proposed, but the people who are not here during these meetings, the rest of our municipality, the rest of our residents, they don't really know. And some of them, quite frankly, they don't even understand. So I believe knowledge is power. And if we can get vendors to come out and do presentations for us to educate us on what's really going on, I'm a visual person. I think that would be a great idea. Also, it'll give us an opportunity to have questions and answers. And I am almost done. On June 3rd, Councilman Petrucci, our business manager, Scott, myself, we attended a webinar on gun violence reduction. And then on June 4th, myself, Councilman Petrucci, and our business manager, and Mr. Ron Graham, and Dr. Nancy Hines, our superintendent of the Penn Hill School District, we met to discuss how we can collaborate to reduce the gun violence and homicides in Penn Hills. If you're watching the news, you see all of this activity that's happening right here in our neighborhood. It's unwanted activity. We also discussed a possible grant and the opportunity we would have if we got this grant, what we can do with this money. So when I'm done, I'm going to ask Scott if he would just brief us on the nature of that grant. One of the immediate things that will happen is this municipal job fair. So in collaboration with our school district, because everyone knows if your school district goes, so does your municipality. So in collaboration with our school district, we came up with the idea of having this municipal job fair, and that's how that came to be. As you heard, the date will be Saturday, July 31st, 2021, from noon to 4, right here at our municipal building. Everything will happen on the side of the EMS. So we'll have refreshments for you, we'll have giveaways for you, and we'll have applications for you or your loved ones. Let's see. Flyers are out. I don't know if you all have social media. You may have seen the flyer about the job fair posted on social media. We also have flyers here. Tina, if you could please put it up in the library, I greatly appreciate it. Again, I can't stop saying that, you know, we don't want all of this company and no one be home. So if you can put it up in the library, take some of the flyers tonight. We have plenty of them made up. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay. All right, I think that's it. Oh, finally, there's an app that we were made aware of during our meeting with Dr. Nancy Hines and Mr. Ron Graham, and it's called the Big Burg, and that's B-U-R-G-H. This app is a very resourceful app. If you wouldn't mind, you know, jotting that down, when you go home tonight or tomorrow, look that app up and see how resourceful it is, and just spread that word, because with all of the things going on in our municipality and people not knowing where to go for help, you'll be able to, we're just 5 up here, you'll be able to spread that word offering the help. It's very resourceful. I don't want to go into the details of it, but again, it's called Big, B-I-G, Burg, B-U-R-G-H. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. That was very incisive and very detailed and very informative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Pecora. Do you have any items for consideration or any reports?
No, I do not, but I wanted to ask Manager Andrew Jack, did we get the final report where we can use the stimulus money, how we can use it
They're expected in September.
in September?
There's some interim rules that we've all seen. Those have been circulated. It's heavy on sewer, it's heavy on water, broadband, but there are some other rules coming in September. But one thing I just did want to point out is that, you know, we have been having meetings internally with the directors and all of our departments about their needs. That started really early. And then the other thing too is we have an existing capital improvement plan, and many of the projects in that plan would hopefully be funded under the stimulus. So if you want a preview at what some of the projects are likely to look like, you could look at our capital improvement plan, which we adopt every year. And I believe we do that again in August or September when we update that. So we do have a pretty comprehensive list of projects that might end up getting stimulus funding. So I think to the extent that anybody wanted to see what some of these projects are that we're talking about, you should really look at our capital improvement plan, because that's something that we do every year and the staff works pretty hard at that. So that is one thing.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, didn't you say that in September, we're probably going to have a better idea of what the rules are?
Yeah, the rules are supposed to be final in September. Some of the money is not as flexible as we may want it to be. A lot of it, the majority of that funding, it's really tied to water and sewer especially, storm lines and sanitary sewer lines. We also know that there's going to be community organizations that get some of that money too. What we're trying to do is wait to see what these final rules look like, because we have a number of organizations and concerns and needs in the community that aren't directly addressed in the in the rules as it is. One of which is fire service. We've been trying to find ways of making investments in our fire service. The money as it's written out doesn't allow us to just, increase the contribution level. So we're hoping that there's going to be some changes in the final rules that might give us that flexibility. And we also know that a lot of what's in the capital improvement plan for the sanitary sewer department, a lot of that's going to get funded, as well as a lot of stormwater projects too. But I think even after all that is said and done, there's going to be a lot of other funding left over for other projects too. So it is a very exciting time to get involved with our budget, because our budget next year is going to show how we intend to spend stimulus in 22.
Isn't that really sort of the heart and soul of it? We have to be creative with our budget, because what we have to do is try to make the stimulus money replace other money, so that in the general fund, we have access to other money.
That is very correct. One of our challenges, if you've been following our finances the last few years, is we do have a budgetary challenge of making our expenses match our revenues. And for a long time, that hasn't been the case. For a long time, our expenses have exceeded our revenues, that's what's leading us to have an ever shrinking fund balance. So what we're hoping we could do, and there's a few ways we could do it now, we're really hoping that we're able to use some of that stimulus to pay existing general fund expenses, because that in essence is helping us build our fund balance. That makes us financially healthier. It puts less stress on this organization in the future to have to look at ways of raising revenue or cutting expenses to make ends meet.
Isn't it going to kind of be what our grandmothers used to do? They took money from in one envelope for this bill, put it in another envelope, and so now we're going to be able to take money from one envelope, hopefully.
We hope.
So really what we have to do is these budget meetings are really intertwined with the stimulus money. That's where all the action's going to be, at the budget meetings.
Yeah,
And we need input from the community to see what their needs are, because we're dealing it from here. But we need to know what you want, what you need, and what you think is out there, so we
Right.
can consider everything that's presented.
And those are public meetings, absolutely. Please do show up at those meetings.
So there's a few mechanisms in the rules now that help us. We didn't experience a sustained revenue loss. A lot of people don't realize that, but I know one of the things that the grant allows is there's a pretty complex formula in there where every year we're going to be able to take in part of that stimulus. I think it's 4% of the difference between the 2 years. So there's some things that we're going to be able to do right now that would help the general fund. We're just hoping to see more of those things in the final rules.
In terms of this gun violence grant, we are not the applicant for that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency published a new program. It gave a few $1 million statewide. The name of the program was the Gun Violence Reduction Program. And the funding is geared towards outreach and organizations to try to divert people away from gun violence. So we talked to the school district about it. I talked with our planning director about it. We really aren't directly in a business of doing outreach. That isn't something we really have per se. So what we did was we approached an organization in the community that's already in the outreach. They're already doing outreach in the community. And we actually fund that organization. It's the Western Penn Hills Community Action Partnership. We give them CDBG every year to do outreach in the community. So we led them to the grant, and we told them it's something they may want to take advantage of. They did submit an application for the program. Hopefully they get funded.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that has nothing to do with directly to do with the municipality. We wouldn't see one nickel of that, correct?
No, we're not the applicant. We supported their application. That was we supported their application to PCCD.
And let me just back up. Don't you really kind of mean hopefully we don't get that, because that grant is dependent on being a community that has significant gun violence? As I understand this grant, that typically goes to like Philadelphia. We really don't, although we have had gun violence to get that, you have to have a significant level, isn't that correct?
I don't know what the specific criteria, what they're defining as high gun violence. That is something I don't know.
But you have to have high gun violence to get that.
You have to have some degree of high gun violence in order for them to fund the project. And I don't know what that specific criteria is.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Pecora, are you through with your?
Yes. Yes, Mayor.
I have asked repeatedly to have 2 meetings per month. When the stimulus came out, after that, we did have a public hearing. So that was in March, I believe, which would take us to April and May. I would like to have we have the voting meeting and then the non-voting meeting. That's where there's a chance for real dialogue, some real back and forth. That's a real nice meeting to have. We could have many of those meetings. I know there are members of council that are opposed to having that second meeting. I don't want to have 3 town halls. I want to have 12. I want to have 12 extra non-voting meetings because everybody should have the opportunity to speak and to speak often. I was quite surprised. We had a meeting, we had our last voting meeting scheduled for May 17th. There was a vote to cancel that meeting. Some of us voted to not. We thought just because that was the night before election doesn't mean that you cancel a meeting. We still had public business to take care of. However, it passed 3-2 that meeting be moved. So it was moved to May 24th. May 24th, one of my children was graduating. I asked that the meeting be changed because I thought that we had some major issues in our municipality. We had a few young black men die as a result of gun violence. We had a major hiring and then firing. It was quite controversial. That was the subject of my request tonight, that we asked the chief to resign. I was not at the June meeting was canceled due to severe weather. I was not at the May 24th meeting. It was not moved, although I requested it be moved. I don't see anywhere on here that we are approving any minutes. If it was published on YouTube, I haven't been able to find it. So I don't really know what happened at that meeting. I know that after we had the deaths of those young men, there was an email that went out that said, we don't need these meetings. Nothing, quote, earth shaking has happened, so I don't see why we need another meeting. In my opinion, this is happening all over the country, but I care mainly about Penn Hills. When we have young people die at the end of a gun barrel, when we have a hiring and firing that was botched, and now taxpayers are going to be on the hook probably. We don't know what'll happen. Litigation's probably coming down the pike. In addition to all the personal heartache that this has caused, taxpayers are going to have to pay possibly, we don't know yet, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. There has got to be accountability. There has got to be accountability. I'm stunned. I know that there's a woman in our community, and I believe the councilman Pecora has supported her in this. That too is happening on July 31st. Mrs. Winona Harper, she was just honored the other day as a community champion. I know she's had this event in the works for probably half a year or more. I don't know the details because that's not sponsored by that, but I believe it is at the, do you know what church that is, Councilman? Is that, that's across the street from McDonald's?
Yes.
Is that St. James?
Yeah.
There will be public officials there, there will be food there, there will be major giveaways, and there will be many opportunities for people to have resources, from our community for that. We have the Sunshine Act. That means we're supposed to conduct our business in the sunshine. We're supposed to conduct votes. Voting is supposed to be done for you to watch. You're supposed to hold us accountable. We're not supposed to do these things behind closed doors. And that's why I have repeatedly asked that we have a second meeting here. I ask you to please, this may not sound popular, but it's something that has to be said. Keep your eyes and ears open. Watch what's happening. Over and over and over again, we have each little item that appears to be, oh, just one item. Oh, it's just the senior center. Oh, it's just the library. Oh, it's just the EMS department. It's just the sewer system. That's all it is. Now, tonight, we've got another, the building inspection underwriters, I believe that's what we were told. That's just another way to farm out. That's the expression we use, farm out. That means bring a private company in to take the jobs from our municipal workers. It's very important in my mind. When I talked to the planner, the director of planning, he said, we need people in Penn Hills. That's what we need. If Penn Hills is good enough to be a place to work, it should be a good enough place to live. We cannot degrade our own community. Please be vigilant. Each of these little items that we're just farming out, just for one little thing, is chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. That's what's happening. So I would ask you to please come to these meetings, see what's happening. Look, here's the bottom line, what we do here. This is about a budget. You think of your household budget, right? The money comes in, and we have over a 90% tax collection rate at Penn Hills. I'm very proud of that. And then the money goes out. We have to think about priorities. What are our priorities? There was someone, for example, who was saying, oh, we should put a fence around the sewer system. And to that one individual, that makes sense. And that sounds like a great idea. And I went to the manager and I said, hey, that's a great idea. What do you think? And the manager said, if we do that, it'll probably cost over $100,000. Do we have $100,000? Sure. The question is, what's the priority? Where do we put this? And that's why we need to hit home that we need not just 3 meetings, we should have 12 additional non-voting meetings where people come and give us your ideas. We need to hear them. We also need for you to say, tell us, do you want us to have people being accountable? That's why I made that motion tonight. Maybe it's not popular. I am by no means anti-police. We have the largest police force outside of the city of Pittsburgh. I am very, very, very proud of our police department. But I'm talking about the chief who is not, he stands alone. And a chief is appointed by the mayor with the confirmation of council. The buck has to stop somewhere because mayor and council, we do not hire and we do not fire. But by all accounts, something happened here that was botched from no matter what perspective you look at it. And obviously we can't get into details. Number 1, because it's personnel. Number 2, mayor and council is not part of personnel. And number 3, we have no idea. It's probably heading to litigation, something that we simply can't afford. So I'm asking for accountability. So I'm going to try again for motions and reconsideration. I think we need some accountability. Having said that, we have a lot of good things happening in Penn Hills too. Take a look at our housing prices, take a look at our housing sales. That's really, really good news. We have a lot of really good stuff coming. And we have a lot of projects in the work. We have a very good professional staff. I'm very proud of our staff. They work very, very hard. So please do attend the budget meetings because we call them budget meetings, but that's where the money is and that's where the stimulus money is going to be creatively accessed. May I get a motion for adjournment?
Mayor, before we make the motion for adjournment, I'd like to make a comment to something that you said. Moving the meeting during the month of May, moving the meeting the day before an election day has been a past practice, just like it was when you ran for mayor and judge. So that was not something that was just called because there were people that are sitting on council that was running. We know that our business is important. However, it has been a past practice that you've participated in as well. Also, we didn't ask to cancel the meeting. We just asked that the meeting be simply moved to the following week. Furthermore, this very building that we sit in tonight had to be set up for a voting poll. So we didn't need to be in this building having a council meeting because they had to set this entire room up as a voting poll. So we didn't ask to cancel the meeting, we just asked to move it as you participated in the past. And yes, and it has been canceled when you were running also. So when you sit up here and try to make statements like that, you shouldn't do that.
With all due respect, I did not, with all due respect, I did not run. I ran in 2021.
And we canceled the meeting so that we can support you.
But, may I finish?
Yes.
I ran in 2021, that's this year, and I voted against canceling the meeting. Whether or not that was past practice, I don't want to go on past practices. That's why I ran, because a lot of the past practices that happened in this municipality, I was totally opposed to them. We want to do our practices.
You should have said that when you ran and this meeting was canceled for you.
I did say that to
No,
you.
you didn't.
I absolutely said.
I apologize, residents, I apologize, but I just wanted to make the record known that it was not so. It has always been in the past practice, the day before an election, that this building is closed ever since it became a polling place. We need to set this place up. Some of you in this room may vote here, so you see what we have to do to get the building prepared. So we never cancel a meeting for any election, never, or anyone's personal gain. A meeting may be postponed for 1 week, but it's never canceled.
Are you through? So to set the record straight, on May 17th, 2021, I voted against moving the meeting. That was not for my benefit, and again, I repeat, regardless of what a past practice may be, we need to establish our good practices. We need to establish our good practices. Having said that, in the future, you have to look at the calendar. And if that was an issue, that should have been brought up. But as my point is, regardless of that meeting on May 17th or the 24th, the week after, as far as I know, because I wasn't here and I don't see any minute meetings that were to approve, and I have not been able to access it on YouTube. To the best of my knowledge and information and belief, that hiring and firing was not discussed at the May 24th meeting. To date, as we sit here, there has been zero accountability. And here we sit in the middle of a national crisis, right here in our hometown. We had young black men die at the end of a barrel of a gun, and we have botched hiring and firing, and yet it hasn't been discussed.
And that's why we need to have that grant that you just said we don't need.
I didn't say we didn't need it. I said the municipal manager said that we didn't apply for it. And I hope to God that we will never, ever be eligible for a grant like that, because you can only be eligible for that if you have, quote, a high rate of gun violence. Most of the crime that occurs in Penn Hills is not caused by our residents. Our statistics show that. I don't want high gun violence in Penn Hills. I don't want to ever be eligible for a grant like that. I want us to work together as a community, and I want us to beautify Penn Hills and keep working forward. Now, we do have good things. Well, I'm not going to repeat, but may I get a motion for an adjournment?
Make a motion for adjournment.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, Penn Hills. Thank you.